Welcome to the November Sustainability Commission meeting. First up, roll call. Present. Ned Dorf is excused, correct?
Yes.
Jenny Brinker is also excused. Amy Cox,
Here.
Corey Nim,
Present.
Julia Nordyke,
Present.
Mark Walter,
Present.
Alderperson Presley.
Here.
Daniela.
Present.
Daniela, is your last name Deal?
Yes, Beal.
Deal. Okay, thanks. Then do we have a motion to approve our agenda today?
So moved.
Thank you.
I need to know names, like when you're doing it, can you just say who's?
Alder Presley, this is gonna be hard for me. And seconded by Mark Walters. We don't have any two Marks.
Not anymore.
Okay, yeah. I remember that being a thing at one point.
Sweet.
Then approved. How about approval of minutes from our last meeting?
Just a second.
Oh, okay.
I'm having a.
I'm just so fast. I have my cheat sheet here just in case, but I'm ready to go.
Okay, so approval agenda, minutes.
Yeah, but does anyone move to approve the minutes from last month?
I moved to approve.
Thank you, Alder Presley. Any seconds?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Oh, we got loads of seconds. Take your pick.
Who did the second?
Give it to Amy.
And with that, we're on to announcements about the Green Bay chapter of Wild Ones grant program.
Yes, so. I just wanted to make a quick announcement about this grant opportunity.
Do we have to all say yay or nay for those or no?
Yes, you do actually.
Oh.
You have
For
to take a
what?
vote for the approval of the minutes and approval of the agenda.
Okay,
Sit out there.
all in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Thank you. And Melissa, you have the.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do a shout out to the grant opportunity that the Green Bay, the local chapter of the Wild Ones, which is the Native Plants and Native Landscape Organization. It's a $500 grant program to encourage and support the creation of native landscapes, demonstration gardens, and outdoor classrooms. Alice, would you mind shutting that door?
I'll grab it.
We're getting a lot of background noise. Outdoor classrooms for non-organizations in Green Bay or surrounding areas. The grant can be used to establish, restore, or reconstruct native plant communities such as native gardens, pollinator gardens, prairie, grasslands, woodland, wetland, rain gardens, and shorelines. The maximum grant, it looks like, is $500. There are other requirements, like submitting a budget and an application. And then the grant applications must be submitted by February 15th. And the projects have to be completed within 6 months of the award. So anybody that is looking to do this, looks like they're targeting nonprofit organizations, schools, parks, townships, libraries, houses of worship, or community centers in the Green Bay or surrounding areas. So you can go to the Wild Ones website, which is greenbay.wildones.org, and look at the information that they have about the grant.
You missed that part that says members of the public as well.
It says members of the public, but I think it has to be a public facing.
Organization.
Yeah, it has to be a public facing site is my interpretation of this. So not for your native landscape in your backyard where no one can see it.
Oh, for the front yard.
You can call the Wild Ones and ask them about that.
It says for nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the mission. Oh, that's the mission though, so not necessarily the grant program.
well, the mission of the grant program is kind of how I took it,
Gotcha.
so. I think you would just need to, it's just a general announcement, that's really all I know, so.
Okay.
Pass it along to school groups and other nonprofits, I think that's. Who they're targeting, it's a fairly small dollar amount grant, so. Probably could do a lot of good for small organizations.
So, thanks for sharing that. Excellent. Is it okay to ask if anyone else has announcements, or does it have to be in the agenda?
It should be in the agenda, otherwise it can get kind of lengthy of a,
Missed your chance then.
Well, what-
submit them in advance.
Informational, yeah. Good reminder if you have announcements to submit them in advance. Great, then on to regular business and opening up our conversation about recommendations for incorporating sustainability in 2025 NFL draft programming and kind of some messaging to position Green Bay as a sustainability forward community throughout that event. So we had this on the agenda last month and I had to bump it. I think we have some things that we've thought of and, kind of brainstormed, but I would love to hear from
Yeah.
the group.
I just, as staff, we
Mhm.
usually kind of
Right.
take the
Kick
first
it off.
crack at this, and I just wanted to sort of lay the ground, a little bit of the groundwork. We don't have a lot of details yet. At least details that aren't ready to be shared. So it's as far as this whole, giving input, the way I framed it to some of the leadership staff is that the Sustainability Commission could make some recommendations, on certain city-owned events that the city is sponsoring rather than the NFL. We would like to offer any input that we could, to the NFL, but in reality, it's probably going to be more within our purview to focus on city-sponsored events for the draft. And so the information I have, from the city standpoint right now is our Parks Department is collaborating and planning events for the Wednesday and the Saturday, which Wednesday's the first day, which is April 23rd. Saturday would be like that bookend, the very end of the draft on the 26th. And so they're planning very, very general at this point, a field football day, a concert and a craft beer event. There are still a lot of details to work out. And a media release is being planned for early next month. So a more in-depth discussion could probably be had at our December meeting. But that's the plan right now, is that more details will be forthcoming in early December on those events.
Is there any appetite to incorporate sustainability before things are finalized?
I think so, but there's just a sense of, until dates and times and more details, they really don't want a lot of, so I think there can be general recommendations made at this point, but yes, there is an appetite for it. I think it all just depends on, what the city can realistically do. So.
And from what I understand, the NFL won't be doing anything until after the Super Bowl. They're actually not going to do, the NFL for the draft side has already told Ashwaubenon that they're not going to be releasing any planning specifics and the rest of that until after the Super Bowl is over, because that's their focus until end of February.
We were told that at NWTC too.
I did just want to share a couple of websites. The city just, it's a very starter webpage at this point, but there is an NFL draft webpage that the city will add to as more information becomes available. I was just going to share my screen here.
Brown County and the Packers organization also have
Okay.
dedicated NFL draft websites.
So let me know, people, if you can see my screen. I was going to maybe you can't see it.
See it.
Can you see the full screen? Oh, okay. See, I have it like a full screen on my computer here, but you can only see like a really small part of it. Anyway, it's the NFL 2025 NFL draft. Website, there's a countdown clock that was posted today. And then there'll be events added to this, as well as, you know, the NFL has already started some of the things like reaching out. They've already had like a big thing for vendors and sponsors to qualify to be a vendor. And so that's already like taken place, and those have been determined.
And they're focusing on diverse suppliers.
Yes.
So they're collaborating with New North, and the NFL has a dedicated program to promoting diversity in sourcing for major events. And so there's been a big push to, and you can find it on the Packers website. They talk about their sourcing activities, but yeah. So good. I mean, also sustainability issues, maybe not environmental, but
Right.
Social sustainability issues.
Yeah, there's definitely, they have a wide, you know, there's a wide range of underneath that umbrella.
Mhm. So they have, again, right, we're in this context at least focusing on how we can support city. I'm calling it para draft events. But the NFL does also have some resources and a program dedicated to environmental sustainability in major events. And then that supplier diversity program also. So there are some things happening from the Packers organization NFL side. I don't believe, and maybe Melissa, you have some insight to this. I don't think the Packers and the city have talked a lot about those
Right.
resources. Those aren't necessarily shared resources. But I think to the extent that we can understand what they're doing and align efforts, I think it will be likely useful. So, oh yeah, you've got it up there.
Yeah,
NFL green.
so I was going to, just wanted to.
We can't see that either. I don't know what you're sharing specifically.
Going to just let.
Thank you.
You can see this.
We're currently seeing, oh, there it is, yeah.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is, they have a program called the NFL Green Program. And this is their environmental program, and it's really focused on NFL. It's not the regular weekend or Thursday night games. It's on their big events such as the Super Bowl and the NFL draft, and the Pro Bowl. So they have different areas that they really focus on, one of which is food recovery, community greening. So there might be events that are being, you know, held across the city during the draft. You know, maybe it's a tree planting event, maybe it's a park cleanup. So there could be more events happening, you know, or being planned eventually, you know, and it could be in collaboration, who knows, with the city, it could be with other community-based organizations. I know that they have a focus on really working with community-based organizations, not necessarily just the city of, you know, when they go to a host community. And then some of these other things, material recovery, super kids, recycling and solid waste management, which would probably be focused really in the village area, the campus that is being defined for the draft.
We've had a lot of discussions over that.
And green energy. So my interpretation of the green energy is that they estimate how much energy is used during a draft, and they have obviously a lot of historical information that they can draw from that, and then they purchase green energy credits through a local utility, renewable energy credits certificates to offset. But that doesn't mean that they'll do all of these things during the draft. It just means that these are some of the pillars of this program.
So I think that there could be some opportunity for us to understand this and maybe try to make specific requests. Like I think about like the Parks Department, right? Can you be prepared to say, all right, these are the spaces that we would want to target for community greening or so that if we have the opportunity or, you know, Mark, in your role, right? You said you're already having some of the conversations on the waste side, but if we can anticipate what might be available and then be prepared to say, here's how we can plug into that. Yes, we can take advantage of that. I think sometimes the biggest challenge here is finding the right outlets, right? Getting the right people talking. And I think that's something that we can help facilitate and could be a big value add all around. Melissa, did you have anything else you wanted to share to kick off?
No, I mean, I know, I had good intentions of reaching out to the Packers earlier on in the month and that didn't happen and you did, so.
Just today.
Right,
Yep.
just today,
Mhm.
so we're hoping that we have maybe something more to talk about in regards to the NFL programs, with the Packers. You know, from their planning teams next month.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, you know, I've talked to some people who are involved in draft, not with the Packers organization. And the kind of sentiment was there's probably not as much of an appetite to work hard to try to reduce impacts, that it's more just all hands on deck, let's just get it done and whatever comes will come. So that might be what we're facing. So I think any opportunities that we can leverage to make the economic case for why it's a good idea to do things a certain way, I think is gonna help all around, and then just making it easier, right? Anything we can do to make it easier to do a lower impact thing instead of a higher impact thing. Because understandably, right, there's a lot at stake. And it's a one-time event, so I get it. But I'm hoping too that this will, I'm hoping that we can really contribute value to the Packers organization. It might be an open door to keep collaborating with them, not just for this one event, but sustainability and the, you know, I don't know, 10 weeks a year or whatever, however many home games there are. I think that could be helpful. So that's my thought about the partnership or collaboration. Any other thoughts on the NFL side of things before we talk a little bit more about city-specific events? Specifically online folks, I know it can be hard to chime in. All right. Oh, I see an off screen. Okay. How about for city-specific events? So concert, beer garden, beer tasting event for sure. I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind is waste. I know when I talked with Mayor Genrich about this, I'm always like, not sure. And
Sure.
Genrich, right? Yeah, okay. I even asked him and he told me and I'm like, shoot, now I forgot. Okay, so Mayor Genrich, waste was something he was really excited about. He was, you know, again, he's not the one directly doing it, so maybe his excitement is great. But I know that's something that he's really interested in exploring.
It's gonna be a challenge, to say the least. Ashwaubenon is already planning on doing waste collections in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
Because traffic, you know, the sheer number of people that are, one of the predictions we've heard is that the range in people could be 300,000 to 800,000 people coming over the course of this event. And they think it's going to be probably on the higher end because it's Green Bay and it's the holy grail of football kind of thing. So there may be more people. And there are, people asking about staying, I've got friends in Minneapolis who have inquiries, people staying there and then flying in on a daily basis back and forth just to go to the event. I mean, that's how far away Wisconsin's capacity has to be to meet the requirements of this. So on the waste side of things, we have been in, my department is the collection point for all of the waste in the county. All of it comes through our facilities, either West Mason Street or on South Broadway or down to the landfill. And getting material there is logistically will be a challenge in itself. And then just is there going to be an extra volume? There are just a huge number of unknowns because of that range of people. As Schwabenland has indicated from their conversations with Detroit, probably most of the campus is going to be handled internally by the NFL, not the Packers, but the NFL organization handles that. They do their cleanup, they do everything else there. Basically,
But you
they
still get
use-
the waste, right?
Depends on who, probably not, actually, it'd probably
Oh,
go to
okay.
GFL or Waste Management,
Oh,
because they're
okay.
commercial. GFL handles the Packers waste right now,
Okay.
so it doesn't come through us. We deal with residential, but nonetheless, I love the idea of waste management with recycling and waste separation. The reality is, they're gonna be using street sweepers to pick up everything in that campus area at night. It's the most efficient, effective way of doing it. Everything's gonna go, if they have recycling, odds are it's not gonna be clean enough to actually be recycled anywhere. Though it would be nice if it could be, but that's really, really hard to do on the waste side. So that's the event space. The
Even if
sheer,
it was clean though, do you think the recycling facility would have capacity for?
yeah,
Okay,
so
Yeah.
so there are actually 3 recycling facilities in the state that serve this area. The Tri-County one is in Appleton, and we handle most of the residential waste for the 3 counties that we cover. Most of the commercial waste is now going to one of 2, either down, there's the recycling facility in Mayville, Horicon area that just opened up in February that is run by GFL. And all of their waste now goes there statewide. Every single one of the facilities in the state, and they have like 10 recycling collection points in the state. It's all going to Mayville. Waste Management just retooled their facility in Germantown and opened it again this year. And they have the capacity to handle, I mean, they handle Southeast Wisconsin, but they're also sending all of their waste that they collect down there. So the commercial businesses are being handled by the commercial, 2 of the biggest waste companies in the US. They've got capacity for all that recycling, if it actually gets to come as recycling. The question is, will it be recyclable material or is it garbage? Because it's such a high volume of non-recyclable material. And that's makes it just really difficult to sort. Especially when you think about food waste and liquid waste and all the rest going into one. Anyway, that's gonna be handled by
Yep. I just saw it.
by a couple of commercial entities, and I'm sure they'll do a good job of it. It's more the logistics of what is Green Bay gonna do, what's Ash Schwabenland gonna do, how are they gonna collect material, deliver it to facilities during the day, and I'm 4 blocks from the stadium. I don't have much hope that I'm gonna get much recycling or garbage pickup during that week because the streets there aren't gonna be any open streets. So how do you pick up a garbage cart when there's nothing there? Anyway, those are just logistics
Yeah.
we're working out with the local communities on things and how things will work out. There is the opportunity though, outside of that area to potentially highlight, better recycling, the recycling rules, regulations, what we want, what we
Education.
don't. The education specific to a lot of the rental properties that I can tell you going past the ones that are being rented, it's. They need help. They need education specific to those properties to make sure that they're working with our guidelines and so forth to separate everything out. It may mean the city or the village or whomever has to do more than once a week collections too for that 1 week. Those are all logistical side of things, and we haven't really gotten into the level of detail yet with communities to know what it will entail at the end of the day, but I think there's just a huge number of unknowns right now.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
like I say, with the sheer number of people that potentially could be here.
Yeah, and the range, right? The uncertainty and what kind of.
Yeah, but we'll all do the best. We're meeting with all the public works directors on a regular basis. They meet regularly anyway, and we've just been invited to be part of that discussion so that
Good.
we know what they know, we can help with.
Awesome.
But it's certainly the opportunity is there.
Yeah, and keep us posted on ways that we can contribute
Yeah.
to that if there are ways. Sorry, were you done?
No, yep, I'm done.
Okay, Julia, go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm not going to put my video on. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not feeling very well, so I don't look very good either. So, I was just curious. So, Krista, I do really appreciate you pushing a little bit forward on even just starting the conversation with the NFL and thinking about the Packers in general. Like, I think that is a good spot rather than it just being completely like, oh, they don't matter kind of thing. Like, at least even starting the conversation. So I do appreciate your ideas about that. So I guess my question is like really like what coming maybe even back to the City of Green Bay events, where can we actually have an impact that is like big enough to not just be like lip service? So if it is at city events, like what can we be doing there? Like the cups situation, or is there a better cup than another cup?
Yeah, that's the kind of insight that I think, again, based on my conversation with the mayor, who's not necessarily the implementer, right? So those can be different. I think there's an appetite there. And I think that would be the kind of recommendations that I would look for from this group, right? Some specific things. And I think, Melissa, if you can help us, I understand things are still developing, but if you can help connect us to the specific needs at the city, then we can't promise that we can give a great, option, but at least we'll have a shot at it, right?
Sure.
I
think it depends on, so if we're talking like a city sponsored event, that doesn't necessarily mean that the city is providing the cups, the forks, the knives, the spoons, the napkins and things like that, but they might be inviting others, to inhabit the area, to be able to provide, food services and things like that. So, if the recommendation from the Sustainability Commission is that we want to see compostable cutlery or things that have a certain percentage of recycled content, those are recommendations. Those are advisory recommendations that the commission could make, and then we can pass that information along. It doesn't necessarily mean it's me like this needs to be done, but to provide those recommendations from a subject matter expert or from whatever source it's coming from to be able to cite those would be recommendations I think the commission could make, and then those could be passed along to various committees and staff people that are making those decisions.
It'd probably be worthwhile talking to the Green Bay Botanical Gardens about their events, because they've tried to make all of their events sustainable in
Right.
terms of the type of material that they're using, the plates, the cups.
So
everything
what I
else.
would say, pushing me back a little bit,
Okay,
and not pushing back and then saying no, but I would love it if the Sustainability Commission could do some of that research
Sure.
and then bring it back so that we can put it in writing, like this is something that another Green Bay organization is doing, and they are putting it into practice. And, granted, those events might be on smaller scale, but it's still event management from a sustainability lens. So.
I can speak to this a little bit, having done a lot of these events as a food service provider, I guess. It's not unheard of for organizations to provide, cutlery, plates, and things like that. It does happen.
like for the city to provide it,
Yes.
using.
I mean, it's a little bit unusual, but
Mhm.
we've done events like that. For sure.
I think the way, like the direction I was going with this is that the city is hiring a vendor that they could put out those parameters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like purchasing guidelines.
Yep.
so to speak, not purchasing like the city purchasing it, but it's like, if you're gonna be our vendor, then X, Y, and Z, that's where I was going with it.
One thing you could even do is you could set it up with like a local distributor,
Mhm.
to, source all the things and have them on hand. I mean, you could talk to, like, I think Reinhardt would probably be a good one. They're out of Shawano, and we've been able to source sustainable products from them over the years. So if you were to, do sort of a group buy ahead of time,
Mhm.
then that would make it cheaper for everyone. Make it easier to kind of control what you're using.
Yeah, and our purchasing department would lead that effort.
So it sounds like some good outcomes that can be impactful from the Sustainability Commission would be written recommendations to city staff, kind of general about event planning with some specific actions, like consider these vendors as part of your purchasing requirements, or, consider these parameters as part of your purchasing requirements. Be specific but high level to general city staff that maybe all of city staff could
Yes.
use. But having a written document that we submit would be the way to communicate that. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
And then the other thing that I'm kind of hearing more broadly is that educational materials could be valuable, particularly when it comes to waste management related issues. That could be a way that we could add value, is providing guidance. Danielle, please go ahead.
To add on to the kind of conversation about, compostable cutlery and serviceware, I think if we are making efforts to purchase those products, I think we should also have a plan for actually composting those products, rather than having them end up in the landfill. I know that I don't know what it would take, or if, Greener Bay Compost would even have the capacity to, do a collection on that scale. I'm sure contamination would be an issue. I think there are a lot of challenges to implementing that in such a large scale. But again, I just think that, if we are going to pursue that avenue, we should talk to the composter and coordinate.
Great point. So consider not just front end with purchasing, but back end with actual disposal.
Correct.
How it would get all the way through that process.
Right.
I think too, as we're considering, sorry, were you done with that? Okay. As we're thinking through all of this, the city, just if the city's purchasing items, we have to consider fair bidding laws and things like that. And so as we're looking at recommendations, I think it makes sense to look at specific product types versus perhaps specific product vendors. Maybe that ties in, I don't know, but I know that I guess the more general we can kind of keep it, the more opportunity that would give to, anybody who could provide those products for the event. So just something to think about, I think, as everybody's looking into things, making recommendations.
And like I said, they're, I use Green Bay Botanical Garden as an example because I know they've vetted their process for several years now, in terms of front and beginning to end. But there are other groups as well that I've worked with that do the same kind of process analysis so that they know cradle to grave essentially what's happening with their event materials and so forth. And I think that's part of that exploration as well, to get exactly what you're talking about. Making sure that, just because something's labeled compostable doesn't mean that we actually have a place that will take it as non-landfill waste. Odds are even compostable stuff doesn't like break down on landfill very easily. So you need some other options that may or may not exist in our area. We gotta make sure, and again, it's going to be potentially a huge volume of stuff, waste of different kinds. So
It's a capacity and transfer issue as much as it is.
yes,
The materials issue. Yeah. Julia, go ahead.
I guess just hearing Daniela in this conversation, I mean, I don't know where maybe it will come in later and sounds like we need to do some research, but I would like to have the recommendation that we try to make a goal of for city-sponsored events like zero waste events and make that a goal to figure out the logistics and how that works. It's not, these things happen in other places. Like you brought up the botanical gardens, but you go out west and I mean, they're doing it at ski resorts, and there's probably a lot of people who have examples of places that are completely, like zero waste at this point in terms of events. So it would be nice to move that direction.
I totally agree. And my thought is, again, I think we'll probably run into not only some cultural barriers at some point, but capacity barriers, right? I think Danielle made a great point about like, do we even have a compost vendor who would have the capacity for even one event, let alone all city events, right? So I think one of the things that maybe we can like, choose one of the smaller expected events or, almost like a pilot program sort of within the whole draft weekend where we can say, let's try to make this one thing, even if it's small. Let's see if we can get this one thing to zero waste. What can we learn from it? How can we, incorporate this into how we function as a community, right? Like, what are some of the barriers? I think even that coming out of this to say, these are the things we set out to do. These are the barriers we face. We set out to have zero waste events. We couldn't find compostable goods or, compost vendors or whatever. Like, so I think understanding what some of our barriers are and communicating that after the event could also be really powerful. So as you're researching options, if you come across something you're like, I wish we could do this here, this would totally work, if only, I think we should document that too. Like, let's capture that. And keep that as part of this process. So Julia, I love that. And I think you're right. In other communities, it might happen more readily than we might find it happens in our community. And I don't think that should stop us from trying. And I think we can learn from it and keep trying to move toward becoming not just for one weekend or midweek, whatever, but like longer term.
And I think it would be great if we could find municipal examples of where that's happened. Because it's just a different dynamic, I think, than like a private industry in some regard,
There are lots of people who've done zero waste events around the state at the municipal level that I interact with pretty regularly. There are a number of events that are ongoing in Stevens Point, and Milwaukee's done a couple of things that were really neat on zero waste. They had a zero waste weekend rock concert that was actually successful. So that I don't think they've done it in the last couple of years, but nonetheless, there are definitely events out there, and I can I'll get into my forum with those folks and start asking some more detailed questions on some of that as well, and see if there's some good examples that are then transferable to our area as well.
And again, I really think a big part of the opportunity here isn't just the actual event and the impacts from the event. It's using that to draw attention to these issues, to identify barriers, right? And I think waste is a great area of opportunity for our community, something the mayor is really interested in exploring. This could bring a lot of good things to light that we can incorporate. So
I like the idea of like the highlighting things, and like what comes to mind for me is, maybe we can't compost everything we want or recycle it, but maybe we look at it something creative where like for a craft beer event, whether it's cans or plastic cups that are being used, like can you kind of fill the football with your beer cans or something along those lines, where it makes it like a fun thing that people are going to want to participate in and try not to contaminate, because you're trying to create like, I don't know, something something, whether it's a goal, like help us reach this goal or, as far as
That sounds really cool,
I don't-
actually.
something to kind of highlight that we're thinking about it very obviously, you know what I mean?
I made a note, waste to art.
Green Bay's done that in the past with sculptures as well, that were made out of recycled plastic, or, yeah,
Found
there's some,
plastic.
pardon me?
Found plastic. They had a whole thing at the Botanical Gardens a few years back on
Yep,
that.
that was ocean plastic.
Yep.
Yeah, because I
Mhm.
was part of that event too. They
Mhm.
got a bunch of art.
Recovered plastics.
But there was also a sculptor who was working on a project for the city. And I don't actually know where that sculpture ended up. And he was looking for soda bottles that had been that were being, well, he was looking for them in our waste stream,
Mhm.
but he realized that by the time they get to us, they're too beat up to actually use for what he wanted to. So he ended up going to the 7-Up bottling company in town, that has bags full of soda bottles that didn't make the cut, so they just bag them and recycle them, but they donated a whole bunch of them to him. So there are things like that happen,
Right.
pre-consumer kind of things but they're nonetheless, it highlights, hey, this is something you do. The Green Bay Botanical Garden stuff was really neat. I mean, that was ocean plastics. So
I mean, even if it's like after the fact and we get some sculptures, like this was created out of NFL draft waste and it's part of our community. Both as like a remember what this was and
Yeah.
also, highlighting the work that went toward reducing that waste to landfill.
One of the other things that I was thinking of is, are there recommendations on messaging that the Sustainability Commission can offer for, taking public transportation obviously, during the draft week is going to be very important because our streets are going to be super, super busy. So not just for people coming to Green Bay and being, our guests, but our local people that might find our streets harder to navigate because of the increase in traffic. So just doing some messaging around that to encourage more ridership, and it actually might help with long-term ridership. If people are willing to try it, maybe for the first time during the draft week because they don't want to have to, be looking for a parking spot for an hour.
Yeah.
So, things like that maybe the Sustainability Commission can offer. And then we can pass those recommendations of messaging on to our transit director.
Yeah, I think that could be great, even just alignment and like messaging about what does it mean that Green Bay is a sustainable community or
Mhm.
moving toward being a sustainable
And
community.
by that time, we may have our first electric bus too, which would be
Ooh.
super cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
And there'd be an opportunity to, like the little advertising. Like column that goes across the top.
Of the bus.
Side of the bus.
I'm sure that is gonna be.
Yeah,
prime.
real
Real
estate.
estate.
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, we haven't been introduced.
Oh,
You are.
I'm
I was gonna introduce
You are-
Alex again during the,
Listen, you were,
during
okay.
this time.
Just wondering, yeah, I didn't know if you were here presenting on something else,
Yes.
just. Because normally it's like, okay, if somebody's speaking, we have to make sure we recognize.
Oh.
Introduce you,
We staff.
your
so we
staff.
don't-
all
For
right.
those online,
And Mark Wolf.
Alex is sitting at the table in person and Mark wasn't sure who he was.
Well, we've never met, so.
Julia,
Wait, we talked
go
about
ahead.
this last- Did we? Yeah, oh,
I like the public transportation idea. I guess I have questions immediately, like, do you have materials to show people, like really good materials that are easily available for figuring out how to take the bus? And like, is there an app or,
Oh, yeah.
and then also,
Our Metro has an
maybe-
app. Very
maybe
easy.
thinking about offering locals free bus rides during that time. Like if you're a resident of Green Bay, you get a free bus ride to encourage ridership.
Green Saturday.
Saturday. That's
I-
an interesting
I'm gonna
idea. Danielle, go-
I certainly support transit. I am a bus rider myself. I think that if we're going to try and support transit, we should probably be talking to the Transit Commission, since hopefully they're also thinking about this and, just coordinate our efforts before we get too ahead of ourselves.
And these would be recommendations to city staff departments anyway, so that would be part of it, would be a recommendation. I see your hand. I'm not sure we can recognize you quite yet, but I won't forget. I can.
Yeah, I can move to open the floor.
Second.
Okay, go ahead. Now we can
Need an all in
recognize. Yeah,
favor.
thank you.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor is all in favor of opening the floor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I forgot to ask that last time. Okay, go ahead.
I was just wondering too about major employers and maybe recommending or seeing if they would be able to get carpooling going during that time so that it would cut transportation
Yeah,
in the wider area. The traffic patterns might be lessened a little. So
yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point. Maybe general public awareness messaging that can be part of our suggestions is maybe people don't realize that we're expecting close to 1 million visitors, right?
I'd heard 250,000. That was like the last number I heard.
Right, so maybe, I think a lot of residents might be surprised if they're like, oh my gosh, I can't leave my house, and they didn't realize that it was gonna be. So I think some public awareness campaigns could be useful, things like carpooling, taking public transportation.
Encouraging working remotely if that we can.
Absolutely, great stuff. Anything else from public before we close the
Anybody-
floor?
If they can turn their speaker off in the background, because I'm getting some background noise,
Amy, I think you're unmuted.
like somebody's singing something. Sounds like they're.
Well, I know we have more to cover from Alex, so in the interest of time, any final thoughts on this? I understand it won't be our last opportunity. I would invite you to just shoot ideas my way by email. I would welcome that. I won't volunteer Melissa, but I'll volunteer me, and I can start collecting some of this. But I think we'll have it on future discussions as well.
I was just gonna say, motion to close the floor.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Do we have to do that again?
Yes.
All in favor of closing the floor?
Hi.
Aye.
We also
Any
need-
opposed?
Motion to close the floor?
He did.
Mark did.
Mhm.
We also need our speaker's name and address. Is that
Do you need?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sister Sally Ann Brickner, 3110 Nicolay Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I'm gonna get fired as the chair and let things get out of control.
Point of order.
So thank you. Are there any other points of order? Thanks for keeping us honest. Anything else we're missing before we say last call? Last call for ideas or things you want to cover in this discussion?
And just thinking about the transportation, is there an opportunity to like bring in more e-bikes than what the city typically has, or that type of resource, or
Do they,
the scooters?
do they even have them in by April? I thought they started bringing them in like May.
You guys, I think we're moving on to the next item.
No, this is the last call.
Oh, it is,
Yep,
it is.
yep,
Sorry, I'm
mhm.
so sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was.
Just something.
Great.
I don't know who would plan.
Yep.
But
One of my coworkers was building a couple extra bicycles and shuttling people from their cars to the
There you
city.
go.
rickshaw.
Yep, I got the parts.
Good
Just need time
stuff.
to build.
Any online thoughts before we move on? Last call? All right, to be continued, do I
we
have
need a
to-
motion to hold the next
know.
meeting?
No, we can just.
We can, because it's just a discussion right now, right?
Okay.
So we'll add it again next week as or next month as an FYI. So keep the ideas flowing, but otherwise, do I have to do any motions to move on to the next thing? All right, then in that case, Alex, would you like to share about the Energized Green Bay website?
Sure, but
I just wanted to kind of give a brief intro. So as you know, Alex Galt is our clean energy connector, and part of his job is developing a hub for the Energized Green Bay campaign. And I invited him today to give an overview of the website that he has set up. So right now, we're sort of in a soft launch mode. And he's asked for input from a lot of different staff people on this. And this whole project and grant is being funded through a federal DOE grant from the Department of Energy. So with that, I will make you a co-host, or did you already ask to be a co-host?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, okay, got it.
Um,
Let me just-
okay, so it should work now.
It should.
Okay, and
So you are now the co-host.
all right, so this. Okay, all right, so this is our Energize Green Bay website. And I guess the first thing I would point out that I've made every effort to make sure that it conforms to Green Bay's internal like style guidelines, so that it was recognizably part of the city. So, you'll notice we've got the Green Bay City logo, then we have the Energize Green Bay logo, which is the the logo specifically for the campaign. And then we also have, links back to the city website. And so that's just an important part of how we're kind of contextualizing what we're doing here. The website is kind of, I guess the operative metaphor that we're using is a series of pathways, so the clean energy transition is something that's happening, it's immediate. And let's see, there's a thing. Okay, so like the main navigation element here is a series of okay, there's just a lag, I see. A series of ways of finding your pathway. So you would say I am and then I'm a homeowner, right? And then I'm interested in electric cars. And then this then takes you to a page that I set up that has the benefits of electric vehicle ownership, driving electric vehicles, facts, links to exterior websites, and then considerations, and then the principal incentives that are relevant to electric vehicles in this case. So that's how the website's organized in terms of the information. There are about 19 or 20 different pathways that are in here. So once you've chosen kind of an identity for the purposes of the website, you can kind of move laterally through them. Like if you're interested in heat pumps as a homeowner, you then click over here, and there's information about that. So that's the main way that the information is organized. There's also an extensive list of, I need to open up the incentives. I've created kind of a toolkit or a table of clean energy incentives here that people can navigate through. So what I'm trying to do is kind of present multiple ways of accessing the same kind of information. It's, because you have to kind of make sure that people who have different styles of learning or are able to find the information the way that they're most comfortable finding the information. But there's quite a lot here. It goes pretty deep into the eligibility and the different links to different resources and ways of applying to things. Right. We also get into the rationale for clean energy, like why clean energy. And I've highlighted a few here, so I'm kind of highlighting public health, like the local aspect of energy, clean energy, and then also climate. Then there is more information about all of this here, including information about the city's clean energy plan, the state of Wisconsin's clean energy roadmap and other things. I've put some information here about just the nature of energy, how it's always in transition. I want to kind of contextualize the current transition as just part of an ongoing, it's kind of a snapshot of where we are in an ongoing story about energy. 200 years ago, we were burning wood and biomass. Now we're, slowly transitioning away from fossil fuels. This just happens to be where we are right now. Then we get into the benefits. All of these pathways, there's some missing elements that I haven't been able to incorporate yet. I'm working with an illustrator. So we'll have some illustrations that will, kind of create a lot of flavor and a visual component to what we're talking about here as well. But some of those things will be here. So it looks a little bit blank right now, but this will be more interesting in a couple months.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Could use a little more of, so I'm happy to hear that. I think
Yeah.
it's nice for engaging.
Yeah, it's I mean, a lot of things are placeholders. Like I really, just for myself, I hate using stock photography, for example. So a lot of these pictures will be replaced with things that are local to our area, that are more recognizable and so forth. But
Yeah.
I just haven't had time to run out and collect all of that.
Right.
So this will become more specific to Green Bay over time. And then in terms of working with an illustrator, that's just a process that takes a little time. We got a USDN grant that will help pay for some of those things. All right. So there's a lot of information, a lot of it's very specific to the IRA. So page on homes. And then of course, there's also a blog component to this. I'm calling it Green Bay Electric Wire. And the blog, the way this will function is the things that we write as posts will start as blog posts. Those things will then get shot out in the form of an email newsletter. And will also go out via social media.
Will that sort of stuff also tie into the Notify Me that the city has?
Yes. So I've already set up a Notify Me subscription. I kind of wish it was a less convoluted process for people to follow, but it is what it is. So if you subscribe here, this will takes you to instructions on how to access Notify Me, and then this will bring you to the system here.
Just go back to your tab.
There's a screen sharing thing that's right in the middle.
Oh.
Okay, I think I have it now. All right. Okay. Yeah. So right now I just have a few blog posts that I've written, and there will be more of these in time. So the other thing I want to point out is that this is specifically the campaign website, that there's other information that we're working on that will also live on the Green Bay website. So if you follow the link back to City Hall, and once we've developed the resilience and sustainability hub, this will be a slightly more direct route, but we're calling for now a clean energy hub. And this has information about things that are more specific to Green Bay and its operations and processes. And, in time, this will also incorporate, elements in sustainability initiatives from other departments. And that's something that we're working on doing now. Right now, we just have, I've put together a solar PV page, and this is basically to help this kind of piece of the Soul Smart certification that we're getting. Just creating this solar landing page that provides information about how to navigate the permitting process and as a city. So, and I guess that's pretty much it.
Does anyone have any questions on the Energized Green Bay site? Or comments?
Is it
You want to go
Yeah.
back to the Energized Green Bay site?
Yes. So Energized Green Bay is the URL for right now, and it'll continue to be in a sense, but we're working on setting up a subdomain. So eventually the website that we'll be promoting will be energized.greenbaywi.gov. So it'll be more clearly part of the city. But we're having some technical issues with that now that we're still sorting out. So that hasn't happened yet. But yeah. It's live now. I mean, you're welcome to share it with people. So it's a soft launch, which just means that it's there. It's present. We're continuing to evaluate things, but we haven't publicized it yet. We're intending to do a press conference after Thanksgiving sometime in December.
Great work.
Did you have any more to say, Daniela, or just thumbs up, kind of?
Give a thumbs up.
Great, thank you. Corey, did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, my question's answered.
Oh, good.
I was just wondering about contact information, if there was need.
Yeah, Alex is
As soon as
contact us in this.
Yeah,
And the Clean Energy Hub, we have contact information.
do you have questions or comments? I mean, I'm in love with this forum that I created. It's very, there's a lot going on behind it. It allows me to understand where people are coming from, and it's good.
And I should remember this, but does this link back to the clean energy plan also?
You mean this
The
initiative?
Green Bay's, no, the website, is there anywhere on the website that it links back to?
To the
City of
Clean
Green
Energy
Bay's
Hub.
Clean energy plan? Like
The plan specifically.
Yeah.
That's all.
I have it linked
Perfect.
here,
Yeah.
so it's we talk about that a little bit here. Click here to read clean energy.
Great, yep, that was just, can people get to that from here?
Yeah.
I know you showed it to me before too, and I just couldn't remember.
It's
Great,
yeah, it's probably the biggest website I've ever made. I think.
so it's good.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you so much for your hard work on that and for being here tonight to share it with
Oh,
us.
well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate the chance, and if you have comments, I'm incredibly receptive. So I'm gonna excuse myself now because
Thank you.
my family's kind of in a dinner holding pattern right
Oh.
now.
Thank them for us too.
Sorry. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Looks really good.
I'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
Can I second things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? If anyone's ever opposed and I don't ask, I just want to say, speak up and say, hey, I'm opposed, because it could happen. All right, then, motion passed to place on file and receive. And with that, I think we're on to the informational part of the agenda, work group reports. The The first up is the Clean Energy Work Group report. Melissa, I think you included the notes from
I
the
did.
roundtable.
Yeah, they're in the packet. There's an update on the large, or the clean energy work group. As really part of their day jobs, organized the large energy user roundtable held at NWTC. And Jenny Brinker provided very detailed notes on that meeting that was held October 25th. At NWTC, so thank you for everyone that was involved with that, and there were city staff there, NWTC was involved, WPS, Krista, Jenny, so really
Focus
just
on energy.
Focus on Energy was
New
there, the utility was there, our utility provider WPS was there. And really just talking about how often they want to meet, starting to put some more planning around reducing industrial emissions in the city of Green Bay and tying that back to the clean energy plan. So very grateful to everyone that was involved with that.
And I don't think we can extend any more invitations to those to council members, lest we have a quorum that goes around
Right.
tables. Unless you want to be there as part of your day job. I don't know if that's allowed. Unofficial representation. So yeah, but if anyone's interested in learning more, you can let us know. But it's a good first step. So thanks for sharing that. And then we're on to any discussion or questions about the clean energy work group. All right, then we're on to the climate resilience and adaptation work group.
That would be me. So, I put a little thing together for this agenda. You can read that. But, as part of the East River Collaborative Sea Grant and the Nature Conservancy, we received some money and we held a flood resilience tour going to Milwaukee. It was a 2-day tour. I put the agenda in there in the packet too, in case people are curious or want some more details. And it was really focused on building capacity in our area on community engagement around flood resiliency projects and green infrastructure projects in underserved neighborhoods, most particularly. There was 16 people who came on the tour, and there's a lot of really great information. My colleague from the Nature Conservancy will be summarizing it, and then also I think she's going to create a story map to put online so we can get the information out, the takeaways from the tour on it for more people. Excuse me. Commissioners Daniela and Corey were in attendance. Did either of you want to make any comments about that tour?
Other than it was excellent. No.
I would say, yeah, I agree. I think it was excellent. A lot of great information and I think some great ideas to bring back to the community here in Green Bay about, public engagement and also just ideas about like how do you, once these projects are implemented, how do you kind of handle the long-term maintenance of them and stuff like that. So I thought it was great. I was happy to be able to participate.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. There was a good diversity of people that came. Sue Vandehay, who's with Joshua and their new Environmental Justice Task Force came. We had 3 people from the Conservation Corps come. Sorry, I'm blanking on his name. I was just looking at it. From the Public Works Department, there was Dylan from Public Works. He's an engineer from City of Green Bay Public Works. We had Greg Potts, the director of Public Works from the town of Ledgeview. We had somebody from Extension, and then yeah. So I think it was a really good mix of people that went too. So that was a positive thing to happen. Sorry, was there a question or comment?
Just a cough.
Just a cough, sorry.
Oh, okay. Let me get back to the agenda here. And then I attended the Van Beaver site visit for a future wetland restoration mitigation project. Melissa might talk about that. If we could amend this to, in the notes, to include also Corey, like Melissa, you obviously coordinated it, and then Corey was in attendance too from the commission, would be probably, I should have put that in there. And so that was really good. It's a large engineering firm from out east. Well, the guy was from out east. I guess it's a nationwide engineering company. And they just came and did a site visit, so they'll have some engineering conceptual designs over the next 6 months for that. And then this was one thing that was interesting. A few weeks ago, I attended the American Public Works Association Wisconsin chapter fall conference. It was in Sheboygan, and there was 2 presentations. I thought, I'm not really prepared to like put them on the agenda officially yet or anything, but I thought that were really interesting. Steve Grenier was there too. So one of them is a landscaping ordinance, and the presentation really, and it's, it was with the DNR, and they've been doing some studies, and basically current techniques of installing turf grass is basically, creating very compacted, in urban soils, creating very compacted areas, and there's not actually a lot of absorption going on of stormwater. And so they've been doing some ordinance around how you can not compact the soil and create like really healthy turf grass in locations so it can reduce runoff. And eventually that might be able to get a standard for it in Wisconsin for post-construction standards too. So I think that would be something. Steve Grenier said he was interested in us taking a look at that in more detail. I can get some more details in the future if that's something we want to look at. And then I don't know, there was also really just a great presentation about low-cost sensors being used of the Internet of Things, which is something I don't really know anything about. Didn't know that term before. But Madison USGS, US Geological Survey, they do all like the river monitoring generally. And they've been using low-cost sensors and the Internet of Things to basically help Madison like map or do like a early flood warning system for flash flooding areas in their areas. So, it's not like long term, or it's not, but it's something like the city itself is able to utilize. I'm just thinking of like areas around like Maine and Mason, or bridges and things like that. The city could maybe utilize something like that in the future. That wouldn't take a lot of funding to set up and could be used. And then they're using it also to like map geospatially the flooding. So
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the work that Madison's doing on that with the USGS. We actually had them speak, I thought, at one of our, well, it may have been at a conference that I attended, but yeah, I'm following that and then connected to the researcher at USGS.
great. So yeah, if we want to, we could talk about that offline, but thinking about how we might get some grant opportunities to maybe do a pilot here would be good.
Excellent. Any questions or comments on the Climate Resilience and Adaptation Work Group report? Then do we have a motion to receive and place on file those work group reports?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thanks. Did you get those, Melissa?
I did, thank you.
All right. Our next Sustainability Commission meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Thank you. I'm halfway there. We're getting there. All right, our next commission meeting is December 18th at 5. Melissa, I don't see it on here, but I know you usually do a staff update. Do you have anything to share?
I did not
Okay.
include one for this week.
No problem. I
Or
just
for
wanted
this
to make
month.
sure you had an
Okay.
opportunity.
Don't we usually have like an open-ended other commissioners?
I was just gonna say, is that allowed to just say, anyone else have any last thoughts before we break?
It's kind of like the announcements.
Yeah.
Thing, except, you know, I've been asking people to like submit stuff in advance for announcements, just so that we have,
So we can formalize it and have it on record.
right, but. I mean,
I do have one minor thing I wanted to add to something that was already mentioned, if that's okay, and just that we held a public input meeting for East River Van Beaver Park, and that's planning to kind of coincide with the new master plan for the park. And so it's, I guess I just wanted to make everybody aware that that happened in addition to the walkthrough that we did.
Excellent.
The reason I brought it up is because the goats are leaving Renard Island today.
Oh,
I found that out today. I found it out this morning that they're done. The goats and the sheep,
all done for the season.
done for the season.
for the
because
season,
Yeah,
just,
For the-
okay. I was gonna say, I
well-
saw a news article or something
yeah,
about.
that was actually part of it, was the interview this morning with Channel 26 with me and Roxy Evenson. They're getting the goats off the island because of the snow forecast for tomorrow.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if they'll be back or not. We have to go out we'll see rebidding because, as the article pointed out, they underbid deliberately way low, and yeah, we don't know what it's gonna come out as next time.
Are you renting the goats?
Are we renting?
Purchasing the goats?
No,
What's
we-
the
we-
bid for?
Well, the bid was to actually have goats graze the island as vegetative management.
So you pay for the goats to
The
be
co- the
there,
county hired them, yes,
hired the goats.
as
yeah.
opposed
So
to.
it's kind of like renting the goats, right?
Well,
Okay.
It's like paying a landscape.
No, it's exactly that. It was, instead of paying a landscaper to mow it, we hired a company to.
But the goats aren't taking that home, are they? Probably a person is
Yeah, well, no, they're not our.
in a goat trust.
I was wondering if the goats get a pension.
Yeah.
They get a great,
They
like.
get room and board.
Yeah, they get an ocean or a water view all summer long and,
Quality of life situation.
absolutely. They had a great life for the summer.
Well, thank you for that.
The sheep, actually, it's the sheep that we hired, and then the sheep herder,
Are they all fatted up now?
they're pretty they weigh
They
like
get-
up to 400 pounds, these sheep, and the goats are a lot
400.
smaller.
That seems
Yeah.
dangerous.
400? No, they're. Yeah, sometime. So we don't know if we will have them back again next year. Depends on low bid process. It's the county, it's public, it's gotta be whatever it works out as. So.
Thing like that. Well, thank you for that update. Any other final announcements before we close? Would anyone like to move to adjourn this lovely evening?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. Apparently I can do that. All in favor?
I
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you in December.
Thanks, and sorry for the noise before. I apologize for that. Just left my mic unmuted, and yes, there was taping noise.
It happens. Thanks for being here. And members of the public.